So today I am gonna make some moussaka for dinner. It's very Greek and it's essentially just a casserole. It's a one-pan dinner, very easy but lengthy to make, and it's filling. It makes for a lovely weekend roast of sorts. Let me show you how to make it. So moussaka is made of 4 layers, and one layer is going to be of eggplants and the other layer is going to be of onions and potatoes. We'll also have a layer of meat, for which I'm using mutton. This is 300 grams of mutton. To cook the mutton, we'll need puree of 3 tomatoes, 1 onion, a couple of bay leaves, a couple of cinnamon sticks, about 4 cloves of garlic, and some olive oil. So moussaka is all about its layers. I'm going to prepare bottom up. So the first layer is potatoes. Wash them and slice them real thin. Just like that. Yeah, don't waste time like me. Just use a mandolin or use one of those food processors. Now I'm going to take these sliced potatoes and I'm going to lay them out in a large dish. I'm going to generously salt them, and the idea behind salting them now is that they lose all that excess moisture before I toast them. So them losing moisture is going to take a couple of minutes. Till then, I'm going to work on my next layer, which is the onions. So skin your onions and slice them thin. After you've cut your onions, get back to your potatoes. They will have lost a lot of liquid. Drain that liquid, and when you drain it, it's going to lose most of that seasoning. So salt them again with some salt, pepper and some thyme, and get the pan next to you smoking hot. Add some oil, and now we're going to begin browning our potatoes. Browning these potatoes is going to add this lovely nuttiness, which will broaden the flavor profile of this moussaka. With the onions, repeat the exact same procedure. Caramelize them, get them deeply golden brown. This will add an additional sweetness to our moussaka. Up next, the aubergines. Cut them into 1/2 centimeter circles. Follow it up by drizzling some olive oil on both sides and seasoning them with some salt, pepper and some thyme. Now we could pan fry them just like the potatoes, but for some health concerns I am going to roast them in the oven. Now the hero of this dish, the mutton. Start off by small dicing your onion and slivering your garlic. In 2 tablespoons of oil, add your onions and sweat them. When the onions are about 80% done, add your garlic. Also add your bay leaves and your cinnamon. Sweat these for a couple of minutes. What you're looking for is your cinnamon and your bay leaves to release all the essential oil and add that fragrance to this. Now add your meat and cook it till your meat begins to change color. You want the color to change sufficiently, almost dark brown. You also want your meat to render out all that excess fat. Once you see that your meat has begun to render out all that fat, add a teaspoon of dried thyme and a teaspoon of chili flakes. Adding the chili flakes is completely optional, but it's going to add that additional spike. Sweat your chili flakes for about 30 seconds. Don't go any more, it might burn. And then immediately add your pureed tomato. Now you want to cook this until the tomato has completely lost its moisture. But you want to do this on a low flame because you want your mutton to be cooked off completely in this process. So on a low flame, the entire procedure should take about 25 minutes. About halfway through the cooking process, get rid of the bay leaves and the cinnamon. They've done their job, they've imparted a beautiful fragrance, and keeping them in for any longer might actually add a little bit of bitterness coming from the cinnamon. The next step is what I would call the most important step, and that is to add an acid. I'm adding juice of half a lemon. I say it's the most important step because without an acid, your meat tastes extremely fatty. And seasoning time. So season with 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of pepper. But we also have a usual problem, and that is we've used fresh tomatoes and they don't have the required sweetness. So you must add at least 1 teaspoon of sugar. So 3 out of 4 layers of our moussaka are ready. And now it is time to work on the 4th and final layer, which is the bechamel. So this bechamel is not a regular bechamel. So we're used to a certain thickness to our bechamel. It should coat a back of a spoon, kind of a creamy thickness. This, and you could call that like a one-time thickness. What we're going to do here is make a 3x bechamel. So we're going to 3 times the flour and the butter. So for say 1 liter of milk, you generally add about 50 grams of flour and 50 grams of butter, or 60. For a 3x, you'll have to add 180 grams of flour and 180 grams of butter. So for 500 ml of milk, here I have 90 grams of butter, 90 grams of flour, 500 ml of milk, with some salt and pepper to taste. For additional aroma, you would add nutmeg, but I am no fan of nutmeg, which is why I'm using the alternative, which is a couple of cloves and a couple of bay leaves. We will start off melting our butter. Now as soon as the butter melts, you want to go in with your aromatics. So add your cloves and your bay leaves. When your cloves and bay leaves get a couple of minutes and your butter has begun to boil, turn the heat off and add your flour. The residual heat in the butter will cook off the flour. All you're looking for is the flour to be completely incorporated. Now begin adding your milk and add them in batches. Add the milk as you go and add more only when you feel the milk has been completely absorbed. Add your final batch of milk and stir, and keep stirring, and keep stirring, and keep stirring. Once you feel that your sauce is smoothened out, season it with 2/3 of a teaspoon of salt and a little bit of pepper. You still don't have that white pepper, do you? And now 3x bechamel is done. And it's time to assemble. So from the bottom, layer 1, potatoes and onions. Layer 2, aubergines. Layer 3, the mutton. Last but not the least, 3x bechamel. So try to keep the thickness of your bechamel about a couple of centimeters and not any more. Finally, some parmesan to finish the proceedings. Now this will go into a 180-degree preheated oven for 40 to 45 minutes. And 45 minutes on, our beautiful moussaka is ready. And so this is it. A moussaka is again very Greek. It has eggplants, it has lamb, and it has potatoes with a very thick coating of bechamel. It makes for again an amazing dinner, and do try it at home. And if you're liking what I've been doing, like, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching.